I'm Gold Derby editor Daniel Montgomery here with Adjoa Andoh, who plays Lady Danbury in Bridgerton. Now, Lady Danbury is an incredibly confident woman at a time when, of course, women's status was often precarious and usually not in their own control, but she definitely is in control of her own life. In playing her, where do you feel her confidence comes from?
Survival, an instinct for survival, and an appetite for life, and working out how does she get the most joy and delight from a life that is truncated by many factors outside of her control in the era that she's living through. So I suppose I think about all our fabulous mothers and grandmothers and aunties and all those women in our lives who have dealt with maybe being at the bottom of the social pile and finding their ways through to be glorious and fabulous and having joy and delight in amongst all the the pressures and challenges of their lives. You know, learning how to box clever, how to get what you want without seeming to get what you want, all of that stuff. So I've thought about all of those women, and I want to celebrate all of those women. But at the same time, for a woman listen to me, for a woman in this era, Lady Danbury, she's widowed, so she has no husband telling her what she can and can't do, because at this period, women were the property of their husbands. Let's not even get into what was happening to black women at that time, just women in general, the property of their husbands. Her husband is dead. He's left her with a fortune. She has no children who are visible in the show. So she is free and clear. She's a high social flyer. She knows how things work, and she has the finances to support and back her up at every turn. So social standing, economic standing, and that sort of wisdom that's born by having to box clever through your life, I think, give Lady Danbury the opportunity to be the most confident presentation of herself that she can be. How she is privately is a whole other conversation.
Do you have because we see her very much publicly on the show. Do you have thoughts about how she is privately to kind of inform your fleshed out idea of her?
I think like any public facing figure, when they're in private, they may still be beset by all the anxieties and desires and that strong sense of life being fair or not fair and all those sorts of things that you feel as a kid. I don't think any of us ever shake that stuff off. And I'm sure that presidential candidates to potentates and high government office, royalty and whatever, CEOs of multinational companies, in that quiet, dark moment in the middle of the night when you wake up worrying about stuff, at that moment, we're all in the same place. And I think that's true for Lady Danbury as well.
And being the fact that she's a black woman in this era, and this show imagines a time when black men and women have access to potential royalty and titles in England, and she's aware of that part of her life. She has a speech to Simon about like knowing where they are, and how does that inform because it's a whole other level of pressure on a woman in this period. Like, how do you imagine her wrapping her head around all of that as well?
Well, so I suppose there's a few things to say about that. Firstly, our show isn't a documentary about that period in history. Nonetheless, Queen Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz in Germany was part of the German royal family that had come through the Portuguese royal family. The Portuguese royal family, through Alfonso III of Spain, of Portugal, absolutely had a child with an African woman, and she descends down that line. That wasn't a rare event. The Portuguese royal family, the Portuguese were trading in Africa from the 1400s onwards with African royal dynasties. So this is pre-slavery. This is just trade. So there is an integration between African and Portuguese royalty going back time before we even get to what was happening in terms of enslaved African peoples. So so Queen Charlotte was of mixed ancestry. That's just historical fact. So we've sort of expanded on that story, but there were women who, particularly from the Caribbean, who bought themselves out of slavery, worked their way out of slavery, and became extremely wealthy in the Caribbean. Excuse me. There's a woman called Dorothy Cohen Thomas, for example, who bought herself and all her family out of slavery. Extraordinary woman. And she'd been on the Demerara plantation in Guyana, and she had an affair with William IV, who was Charlotte's grandson. And there were aristocracy, British aristocracy, who were lining up, broke British aristocracy, to marry these wealthy women of colour from the Caribbean. So, you know, and also Britain at the time of Queen Charlotte, there were 20,000 free black people in London. That's not even Britain, that's London. Britain was the centre of trade. You know, Britain didn't even introduce passports until 1905. So people could, the empire, the Commonwealth, they were vast. People would come from all over the world. It was a place for refugees. Joseph Conrad ended up here. All sorts of people ended up here. So the multiracial nature of the society that we present in Bridgerton is a fictionalized sort of warp factor 10 version of a historical reality of the country. You know, and so for me, it's really important that we had that conversation in the show, that people didn't think we were doing colorblind casting. I am not, you know, pretend white. I am this color, very happy to be. I'm very happy to put that notion into a historical drama where usually we are just whitewashed out. So lucky me.
And you know, Lady Danbury's relationship with Simon is of course incredibly important. She was friends with his mother and defended him against his father. And you have to develop this bond with Regé Jean Page, who, you know, your characters have had such
so difficult.
Yeah. I can only imagine working with him would be a chore.
Hell on earth, Daniel. What can I tell you? Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. But
no. I was just wondering what was it like forging that relationship? Because you have to kind of develop that sense of the years that they've had together.
You absolutely do. Well, the thing is, Regé's a super smart actor, you know, so we enjoyed working with each other. We were really interested in developing the relationship between the two of them, developing the relationship in terms of their backstories, the backstory of the society in which they had both grown up. What wise counsel could Lady Danbury share with him? What love and support and sense of self-worth could she share with him from the lessons that she'd gleaned in her own life? And you know, in my life, I have a friend who died young, who left 2 children, who I have several friends actually that's happened to, who are dear in my heart. You know, I still have both my parents, and I can't imagine what it must be like to not have parents in your life. So I think for Lady Danbury, you know, she suffers no fools. She knows she needs to toughen him up, but that toughening up is for his survival. And how many black parents in general know they need to toughen up their children for their survival? So, but you know, with toughness must also come love. So I think that's definitely where Regé and I were trying to go in that dynamic. And for him, who is a character who's so sort of damaged and reticent, I think Lady Danbury feels like a safe harbour in which he can slightly raise the curtain on his misgivings, his insecurities, and his damage, because they share the history. And he sees what a smart operator she is, and that when she says something to him, she doesn't pour empty words over his head. She gives him stuff of value that will be of use to him. And I think we both sort of delighted in that. And then as human beings, Regé and I we just get on. You know, we laugh together, we argue together, we love talking about politics, we're both into punk. So you know, we love our music, we love bands. He's been in bands. All I ever wanted to be was a bass player in a punk band. My brother's a musician in LA. So yeah, we had lots of areas and also, you know, we're both mixed race with an African parent and a UK British white parent. So stuff, lots of stuff in common, I guess.
And another thing that seems like it would be especially enjoyable about playing Lady Danbury is because she is in such a secure position in her life. She's a survivor. She also gets sometimes a lot of the snappiest dialogue because she has the freedom to speak her mind.
Yeah.
I can imagine that, you know, reading the scripts and getting to see, you know, you can tell people like it is on the show must be especially satisfying.
Well, when I got the first, you know, the sides to go and have a meet with the people from Shondaland and Netflix to talk about Lady Danbury, as soon as I got the side, she just sort of leaps off the page at you. She's like straight in there. It's funny, self-deprecating, snappy, as you say. Those lines are great to deliver. You know, it's fun to play those parts, and it demands that you really work on your timing and your delivery, and you emotionally know where you're at with the character, so that you can. She's got swang, Lady Danbury. She's got swagger, you know. She's got her fabulous hat and her cane and the cut of her clothes. I mean, I had this amazing costume maker called Melanie Carter, who's the seamstress that makes all the costume and the detail and the pleating and the, you know, and the whole design team were amazing. So she's got a swagger in her heart and a swagger in her gear. She likes a lovely bit of schmutter. She likes a nice stylish outfit, and all that is her armor as well. Let's not forget, you know, the caustic line and the snappy hat. They can protect you and divert attention from your wobblier moments. So it's all tactics.
And the clothes, the costuming is such a huge visual aspect of the show, but it's also communicates so much about character, as you were saying.
Yeah,
Like what and but there is also so much costuming and hair and makeup and wigs and all of that sort of stuff. Like
yeah.
how long is the process of
Look at my head,
becoming
Daniel. Look at my head. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine getting a wig on this head is yeah. I'm in hair and makeup for quite some time of a morning. It feels a bit like, you know, do you remember the $6 million man? We can rebuild him. That's what I feel like. It's like we have to construct this woman. There's hair, there's makeup, there's corsets, there's, you know, layers and layers of fabric until we arrive at Lady D. And that's kind of part of the that's, you know, it's almost like you watch yourself becoming that character as you go along. She sort of, if she emerges. So I go in like this, but, you know, more knackered of a morning, and I and I emerge as Lady Danbury, and it's almost like it's almost like a birthing process every day. And then at the end, you know, we de-rig her, and I shuffle off home as me.
and you know, we get to know her in season one, but like she seems like a woman who again has lived this incredibly fascinating life and
Mhm.
you know, has survived everything. Are there aspects of her that we haven't seen yet that you would most love to explore? You know, parts of her that you would love to flesh out?
There are, and they will be coming down the track.
Yeah, definitely don't want any spoilers, but I'm glad we'll be
I can
getting
give
more.
you any.
I'm glad we will be getting more Lady Danbury.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, isn't that the lovely thing about you know, these characters who've lived a life? There's a, you know, it's like, you know, sitting down with your auntie and going, so yeah, tell me about what was it like when you were 25? What were you, you know, all that's, if you just take time to sit down with our, you know, our wiser, older beloveds, there are such rich stories to come. And yeah, I definitely want people to be able to share in the rich stories of Lady Danbury's life, because you know she's got some stories. A woman that gets the girls together for a night of gambling and a smoking and a drinking and a carrying on with the girls, you know she's got some stories.
Oh yeah, that parlor, like those ladies' nights, that's its own spinoff. It could be like that would be.
Oh, totally.
I would
Oh,
watch that.
totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me too. I'd watch it.
Well, I want to congratulate you on the show, on your work in the first season, and all the work to come, and more Lady Danbury, of course. And thank you so much for talking to me about the show today.
No, absolute pleasure, Daniel. Lovely chatting with you too.